Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 16 millimeter film crew. I'm Cindy.
And I'm Dale.
This week, we watched one of our creators that we like to watch on YouTube, FD Signifier. He made a video called the Tyler Perry video. And in this video, Tyler Perry and his films get analyzed from a Black male perspective. So it was 4 hours long. Dale, tell us what you thought about it.
I mean, a lot of the points he made and a lot of criticism and also a lot of the personal analysis he gave on Tyler Perry was a opinion and viewpoint I had for a long time considering, so I wasn't surprised about the information there because that's information I had already looked up and I had an opinion formed as well based on, his comments, Halper's personal comments, based on his individual controversies or whatever. But I did like the compilation of it. I'll be very few people realize um the research and not the meticulous process it takes to take all those sources and somewhat condense them as much as FD could because it's a 4 hour video, but um and add critical analysis to it. So I thought that was really impressive, that aspect of it.
Yeah, I thought it was really impressive just because, like, I don't know if people know how much work it takes to make videos online, like, especially when you're doing commentary on something, the amount of research, the amount of editing, the loops you have to go through just to make sure you're not getting copyright struck and stuff. Like, there is just so much that goes on. So to make a video that long is like very impressive. But yeah, I really enjoyed it because I think that when I've thought about Tyler Perry, I don't think I've been very generous in terms of like his story and like why he makes the kind of things that he makes. I think I've just been like super critical. And I think that even though this is critical in terms of like the messaging and all the other stuff that goes on with Tyler Perry, I also think it was very like generous and like empathetic towards him and like brought out points that like I didn't know and I didn't know how that colored the way that he makes movies. So basically there's like four chapters. The first one kind of goes into Black media. That's like the history of like the work that we've, I guess more the modern history of like the work that we've made throughout just modern television and cinema. And then that sets kind of groundwork of like how we get Tyler Perry in the first place. But then he talks about Tyler Perry's story and the fact that he was, abused when he was younger. He watched abuse in his house. His father turned out not to be his actual father, which is crazy. And then like that he worked really hard, but he was not, kind or like bought any like anything, helpful in terms of like emotional stability, being kind to his wife or whatever. Like he,
Affectionate.
yeah. So he grew up in a really difficult upbringing, not any money, like abject poverty as well in the South as a black man. And when you understand that, it kind of makes more sense why he ends up making or telling the certain stories that he tells, where he talks about the people who, exist in that world, for better or worse, like their stories do exist. And I think sometimes when we look at Black cinema or Black media overall, it is very much like middle to upper class. Like you see Black people doing well for the most part, or you see them like from back in the day where they were like involved in crimes or whatever. It feels like more now we try to stare away from those kind of stories. But I think earlier it very much was like talking about violence and growing up in those type of environments. And he's exploring those stories. He got a lot of inspiration from his mother and his aunts and like the women in his life. And so he tells a lot of those stories, which is how you get Medea and stuff like that. So it was interesting to hear his background because I do think that it says a lot about his philosophy and like where he is coming from when he's telling these stories. But it also sets up kind of like his failures, like the reasons why he can't tell certain stories well, because like his understanding of the world is very much shaped from like how he grew up. And I don't think he's ever like left that space.
Mhm.
So mentally, at least.
Yeah, and it taints like I know I like even as an adult now there are certain aspects of black culture. When I say black culture, I mean African American culture that that I wasn't I didn't acquiesce to or I wasn't really exposed to being, Jamaican background. Even though yes, was born here, grew up here for the last almost 30 years, I'm still attenuated even with my family, and sometimes some friends, because people you move to areas and you form friendships that kind of vibe that similar. Like majority of my friends growing up were like either Haitian, you know, or Panamanian, or not necessarily African American for the most part.
Hmm.
So there are certain aspects of African American culture I was definitely unaware of until like adulthood almost. And it's not purposely intentional. And I do feel like with Tyler Perry, that also seems to be the case, is because he views the black experience as this experience of what he witnessed growing up, and stories he gets from, I guess, family members and whatnot. He assumes that's the whole swath of our experience, and as a creator, that really limits your ability to create. Because you also see it and it's only really a problem I kind of do see with Tyler Perry. A lot of other black filmmakers will kind of ebb and flow and make different things. I look at the Wayne's family. They'll do comedies. They'll do like black comedies, but sometimes they might bust out and do an action movie here or there, like, and there it's in those action movies they might a character might have a certain black experience, but it's not the one singular content that Tyler Perry seems to do. And it's not just that with me. On a creative level, he always tends to recycle the same concepts over and over again. His stories don't evolve, these don't change. It's the uh same story over and over again.
Yeah. And um it's not anyways, going to the second part, which is following on from your point, which is his movies, right? So this is the breakdown of like how he works and the stories he chooses to tell. So like FD breaks it down into like three categories, and I'm trying to remember all of the categories, but like one of them was the movies he made early on. So he made plays first, and then he turned those plays into films, and those are the films that he made with Lionsgate Studio.
Hmm.
And then there's like it's like the Medea stuff, but then there's the stuff that it's like where Medea's not like the actual main character. She's just like a
Auxiliary
character.
character, yeah.
Yeah, she's like a side character to another person's story. And then you have the other films, which are like temptation, like the sexual, like pseudosexual kind of like more adult, I guess you would say, movies, Mia Copa, those kind of movies, right? So those are the three sections that he kind of goes into. I grew up watching his plays. So like my father is Haitian, but he came here when he was very small. So he's been here for a long time. My mom they're both they're from New York. So like they've been here for forever. And so my experience is more of like the African American experience, not necessarily like an immigrant one, just because I was born here and my dad came here when he was young. So like I was watching all the black movies growing up, all
Mhm.
the Four Brothers and the Best Mans and all of them. So I grew up on that stuff. And when I was younger, I didn't like realize like the messaging that he was putting through in these
Mhm.
stories. When I watched not it's the one with oh God. Why is it so loud? The it's the one where I mean, this is most of his movies, like the woman gets beaten by her husband and then she leaves.
Diary of Black Mad Woman. I think
Yep, that one.
That's the one
That's the
everybody
one.
can kind of point out. Yeah, yeah,
That's the one. I watched that one. I watched Woman Thou Art Loose. Did he make a movie out of that with TD?
yeah. T.D. Jakes. Yeah, it's based on T.D. Jakes' book they
You
turned to
know,
it. Yeah,
if
yeah,
we know. So I was watching that stuff and I was like, okay, like I mean, I didn't in my head, I didn't think that it was necessarily bad. I was just like, well, these are the type of movies that I've just been
always
accustomed
watch.
to.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I got older where I was like, um, why why are like in every movie a woman is just like getting absolutely brutalized and then she goes to Medea and Medea yells at her for like 2 seconds and then she meets a light-skinned man and it's fine. Like
Yeah,
I was like, something about that just isn't
yeah,
right. And also, as the years went on, the quality of his movies got worse.
yeah.
So like the early stuff was like kind of competent. Like it didn't look terrible. The acting was fine. He actually got some pretty high profile people to be in these movies. Idris Elba, Viola Davis, like they were in these movies early on. But as the years progressed, you can see the quality get worse because he was not paying people properly. He was writing everything himself. Like he was shooting things in like 5 days. And so you get worse quality stuff.
Hmm.
You have actors who are like good, but like who don't have much to work with in terms of the script,
Hmm.
no time to shoot it. So everything starts to look a little bit shoddy. And but the issue with that was that people were still watching
Yeah.
these movies. My mother, her friends, my sister sometimes, like the black women in my life were still watching these films. And FD goes into that saying that like black women specifically were the people who were like upholding his
Hmm.
films and like keeping him, moneyed,
Yeah.
keeping his
His
pockets
pocket's
full,
full. Yeah,
you
yeah,
know? So that was really interesting and true because it was something that I was experiencing in my real life. But I feel like if you were aware of this man and his stuff, like that is what is
most.
going
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
And the messaging is bad. Like he goes into like the colorism of it all, the women and how he depicts women, how he depicts men. There were always questions about his sexuality. To me, that's not as important just because it's
No,
like, who
who
cares?
cares? Yeah, it's not. It's that's not my business. You know.
That's not my
Yeah,
business. I don't care what you're doing in your private life. It's bad now because now people are alleging actual crime. So it's like, no, 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 that's not good. It didn't matter if it was a man or a woman. Like, what are you doing behind the scenes? That's still bad. But in terms of like what your actual sexuality is, I don't care. But like, I do think that his understanding of patriarchy, which is I
hmm,
think what he very much still promotes,
yeah,
even though he does center women in his movies for the most part, his understanding of at the end of the day, like a good woman is going to be subservient to the man in her life, and she's gonna have to come home and fix the situation. That's her job.
hmm,
And that means that she's got like once she goes back, when she figures it out, she'll be fine.
yeah,
But you still need a man. Like you cannot be independent and do your own thing. Like you still need a man to be with. That's how we know that you're okay and good. Like that's his understanding of the world. And
hmm,
I think and this is the thing. Before I watched this video, he got involved with Harry and Meghan, the Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. He's like the godfather to one of their kids.
hmm,
And he was in their documentary. And when he was describing Meghan Markle, he was like, oh, she could have said more about like what she experienced in the royal family. But because she's such a classy woman, she didn't say anything. And I'm like, that made me go, ew, I don't like how
hmm,
that feels. What do you mean? Like,
yeah. And
first of
what? And
all,
it's not your place to say that either.
yeah, and it's not your place to say, and it's like, okay, so your understanding of classy women are women who, again, stay in the home, homemakers,
Hmm.
like, and who don't talk about the trauma that they experienced publicly because That's not, that's being too independent, that's being too feminist. Like he's very not on that train. He
Yeah.
does not believe that women to me he don't really believe that women has rights, but he didn't say that explicitly, but that's what I'm getting.
Yeah. And I mean, in those, and then I should clarify when I say, like, there are certain things in Black culture I'm exposed to, like you said, I watched like all those movies growing up and whatnot. But and I think the overall issue, and when FT kind of went deeper into his parentage relationship with his parents, and we all know, like, especially now, and like Tyler Perry is our parents' age, at
Yeah.
that point you talk, if you try to talk to our parents now of like trauma or experiences you have still inside you from your upbringing with them, they kind of go they kind of brush it off because they're not accepting of that mental component of humanity. Like, I'm your parent, I did what I had to, you lived, accept it and move on. And FD hits a point where there's a couple of scenes in a lot of his movies where he's playing a character, and like his an allegory to his father's in there, and they're going back and forth. And then Medea's in there, kind of, the auspices of his mother, or his aunts, and he's trying to like reconcile a lot of those things out publicly, up or in the format as he's trying to accept stuff. And his a lot of it goes back to is like, you survived, you lived, you're here, accept it and move on. There's no idea of recompense for whatever emotional harm your parents have put on you. And that is double-sided by the fact that, let's be honest, Black culture, we use the church and our spirituality as a very big emotional and mental crush for stuff. And so those combined things, you know where you have like, oh, the woman, you're abused by your husband, does he still provide it? You have a house still, right? Go to church, you pray, God will take care of it for you. God wants you to, be a housewife and be subservient to the husband. Like, the bastardization and abuse of those two concepts, especially the religious aspect, is something I've never been with from a long time. I'm not a fan of, people abusing and mistaking, religion for those practices to keep women down. And like, his logic is basically, hey, God says you got to be a good woman, stay by that man no matter what, kind of thing. And that's once again him reckoning, like, my father was a horrible father, you know, but my mom stayed because she's a God fearing woman. And if you're a God-fearing woman, if you're you you accept, because you ignore the red flags and accept a few green ones. Oh, he hits you, he abuses you, he hits your children, he drinks, he might go out, have another family, but does he, when he comes home, does he take that paycheck and give it to you to pay bills? It's kind of like a flawed version of August Wilson's Fences, in a
Mm.
way where August Wilson, he's critical of the father, and most people know the movie of being played by Denzel. He's very critical of Denzel's character and the abuse he's played on his both his sons and his wife, and some of the people around him. And you see the outcome of that behavior when you're that in the movie. Whereas Tyler Perry goes, oh, Medea will just pop in like, your mama's dead, y'all need to be a family, and everybody just gets along. You don't see the actual like emotional growth or the coming together or the attempt to understand each other. That's not there.
Um, yeah, I agree with all of that. And I feel like it's like spiritual manipulation actually doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
And also just selling people, especially Black women, their own, I don't know, trauma predations, like something like that, where it's like amplifying these stories and but it's not being authored by women. So it's not like they are able to like have ownership over their own, I guess, trauma or experiences and get to a place where, maybe they had found freedom from these toxic relationships, these abusive relationships, And to have a man say, actually, no, what you need to do is just pray about it and then go right back into a situation, even if it's not with that particular man, but just go back to another man,
Mm-hmm.
I think is really not only telling about how he feels about, I guess, the role of religion, but also how he feels about women and heterosexual relationships, where it's just very like conservative with a, I guess,
Lowercase c.
a lowercase c. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is, to me, that's like very exemplified. And he did this movie called A Fall from Grace. The only reason why I know about it is because there were so many memes with this woman in a wig, and the wig was terrible. And basically, they did an interview while they were promoting the movie where she was saying like, he didn't, we had his argument on set because he didn't really understand like how black women are presented means a lot, especially when it's in film. And to have a black woman looking absolutely crazy, like that's not the kind of image that I wanted to put out there.
Yeah.
And basically Tyler Perry and her had this like back and forth during the interview about how basically she just needs to listen. Like she just needs to listen to what he was saying because he was the director and the writer of this movie.
Yeah.
Which just goes to show exactly how he is. Like that is his belief. Like I it begins and ends with me. Like I am the authority when it comes to the stories I'm telling, even if black women are the centers of those stories.
Yeah.
So again, just really just really toxic and awful and revealing about his own you know, psychology and behavior.
Yeah.
But so yes, his movies have been problematic. They've been problematic for a long time. People have been calling it out, and then he sort of changed things a little bit, but not much.
Not much, no.
It's still the same. It's still the same thing. Like even in the more pseudosexual movies that he made, the women is always condemned for stepping outside of her marriage, for, sleeping with other people. Like it's never a woman's sexuality, even in those situations, are never expressed as like a woman finding herself. It's always like you are a bad person for doing these things, and because of that, you are gonna get your marriage taken away. You're gonna get a disease. You're gonna
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying? It's like again, very telling. Um,
Yeah, like even in that point, like you mentioned in tangentially, was it acrimony
yeah. Hmm.
with Johnny Smollett and Lance Gross? Like even in that movie, like she's like, "Oh, I'm unfulfilled in this marriage. I'm going to go and cheat on you, and I cheated on you. Now I have HIV/AIDS." That kind of
It's
thing.
like,
And it's like it's like on one half he's like, "Oh, if your husband is horrible to you and you leave him, if you find a God fearing man, everything will be okay." Which we know what the school we went to. Plenty of
yeah.
young up and coming black pastors. And
God-fearing men.
God
They be
fearing
the
men.
worst ones. What?
Seen plenty of those individuals prey on young women,
Hmm.
and then so even then that could be an outcome of that. And he's like, "Oh, if you find a God fearing man, everything will be okay." And but if you don't find that God fearing man, you step on your husband, you cheat on him, you'll get a disease and die. And it ignores the part, especially in that movie, the part that the husband played it as well. I wish if that movie would have been a lot better if it was from both viewpoints. And it sucks that it goes to the extreme of I'm having an affair and I'm cheating on you. It's just a natural occurrence of people growing apart. And the character direction is so poor because she doesn't express that viewpoint. She's like, "Oh, I'm not going to communicate to you that what the issues we're having. I'm just going to go, pal around with my this rich guy who's my boss, and then once he rapes me, I'm going to be sexually fulfilled by it and seek a relationship with him." Like, there's so many things. Like, even with that movie, I think has one of the more glaring problematic things as far as its resolution and the lesson it's trying to teach as well.
Yeah. And to me, that just proves that you're not a good writer because you don't know how to write complex relationships. I always feel that anyone who like kind of throws the cheating plot into a movie, it's lazy
Hmm.
because there are so many other ways to like deconstruct a relationship that where cheating isn't involved. So to me, it's just like it's just another reason why I'm like, yeah, your movies they're not hitting. And I think FD makes this point, which is a point that I kind of try to make to my friends and family who are watching these types of films and stuff, which is like I think sometimes people don't know that they're not getting good or quality.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You've had fast food
Storytelling.
for so long, you don't know what steak tastes like.
Yes. And we've talked about this on this podcast, but I feel like this is especially true in the case of Tyler Perry, where it's like because you guys have not been eating well, you're not knowing like what you're missing out on. Basically, like knowing that actually there's a whole table of stuff that's just
Yeah.
good. I think we are sort of making a little bit of a course correction because of Jordan Peele and Ryan Coogler and Nita Costa. Like we're sort of getting to a place where it's like, oh, there's other good stuff. Like let's not eat fries. Like let's eat, a beautiful pasta dish. Like let's do that.
Yeah.
But it's still because he's still pumping out stuff and it's so easily accessible. He has like huge deal with Netflix, so he's just going to continue to make movies on there forever.
Mhm.
So it's hard to really push past that stuff and get to the good stuff, which is it's frustrating, but also it's like I wish more people understood that because I feel like if they knew that, then they wouldn't kind of just accept whatever Tyler Perry is choosing to give them because he's not working hard enough to like give you good stuff. Like I think he did the 6 888 with Kerry Washington, and that was kind of decent. But like the movies that are getting promoted heavily, the movies that are making the most money are not those kind of films. Like they're the Medea films. They're all this other stuff. Like so again, it's I think to me it's his concerted choice to
Yeah.
not give quality work because he doesn't feel like he has to. He feels like I think he said it. He was like, the people who get my movies get it, and that's all that matters.
And
Okay.
and the issue is also, I think, this is the point FT made, that I think that he thinks Tyler might feel inferior to other black creatives or younger
Oh,
creatives.
of
Like that's a
course.
sentiment I've had for a long time, for him not wanting to share the wealth that's for the table of black creativity, because you look at, like you mentioned, Jordan Peele, you mentioned Ron Coogler, Ava DuVernay, like Spike Lee. Him and Spike Lee had the issue. Spike Lee had to go to him
Yeah.
to get funding. You look at Barry Jenkins, look at Steve McQueen,
Mm-hmm.
like all these directors, and you think like the one black studio here, like the only other black picture that I remember being filmed there is the Black Panther stuff here in Atlanta
Mm-hmm.
for Marvel. You never hear about, oh, Jordan Peele, I'm shooting Get Out, shooting some stuff over there. You don't hear about that kind of stuff. And I think also if he looks at his contemporaries and people who initially were inspired by him, because let's just be honest, to a degree, every black creative in a way of our generation is slightly inspired by Tyler Perry. Let's be honest, not on the creative way, but like, damn, he got all this, I want that, I'm gonna work for it, kind of thing. And so he looks around, he looks at what a lot of black creators are doing on like Instagram and TikTok, black up and coming directors, and he looks at his contemporaries, like I mentioned, like Ryan, like Jordan and Spike Lee, like, and Ava. He's like, what they're doing compared to me. Like I don't think I can't be in the same room with them and not feel a fear. Because I think there's a segment in the video where he mentions when he's doing Girl Gone, and how
Oh,
they
Gone
kept
Girl, yeah.
Gone Girl, and how
Mm-hmm.
they kept in particular reshooting the same scene over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
because they were like, it doesn't feel right. I want to get this right. And in Tyler's head, Tyler was like, oh, I'm shooting this one time and we're moving on. Like that's his view as a creator. Get it once, get done. That's also the rate of, I'm just going to churn out work. Like the interesting note I was shocked by is if you look at black cinema, like the numbers a lot of these pictures do, like Sinners was one of the highest grossing pictures of last year. And of course, Black Panther, Creed, Get Out, Us, Moonlight, 12 Years a Slave, even look at the box office, some older movies like Boys in the Hood and stuff like that. And you look at the money it made. And then you look at Tyler Perry, like he churns out a movie almost every couple of years, and they on average more than $50 million. And for the beating the premier black director or creative, and your work can't touch that amount is kind of odd. And his Netflix contract kind of reminds me of very much like Adam Sandler's one, where Adam Sandler is able to churn out crap with Netflix because once again his audience is set and his audience will buy it. So the quality of the work doesn't matter. And that's also going back to before, like we've mentioned a lot of times that sometimes the producers are there to kind of rein in the director from getting too crazy.
Mm.
Whereas Tyler Perry is also the producer and the director. And you see him when he's working with bigger production companies, like his stuff with Lionsgate, like the story weaknesses are going to be there from
Mm.
his writing. But from a production standpoint, the quality, the camera, all that stuff, the lighting, all that stuff is always top notch. But then you have him by himself
Hmm.
coordinating all that. It's not up to par at all.
Yeah. And so it's like, well, what does it mean? Like I remember that Instagram video, whatever he did when he was like showing like the scripts as he was like showing like how many scripts he's written, like how much work he's doing. And I'm like, okay, well, what does it mean if it's not good? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like it's just paper. You know what I mean? So I feel like again, I don't know, because to me, Tyler Perry is so interesting because it's like he has worked with like good directors. He wasn't just in the David Fincher film. He was in the film with Adam McKay and Leonardo DiCaprio
Yeah.
and Jennifer. Like you're acting with Kate Blanchett and you're in these spaces where where you're with like the best actors of our
Mhm.
generations, working with some of the best directors of our time, and you're still coming like the lessons that you're learning is nothing. Like it just I couldn't believe that.
Or
Like
not
I still
even
can't believe
or
that.
not
Like
even not learning is thinking the stuff they're doing is not necessary.
which doesn't make any sense to me. Well, every director has their own style and their own way of making movies, right? So you're not gonna just take someone else's stuff and say, "Oh, they did that, so I'm just gonna do it."
Yeah.
Like you're always gonna have your own style, but not understanding the method of why they're choosing to do things to me is like a missed opportunity. Like you're not curious enough to understand why
Mhm.
David Fincher does many takes.
Mhm.
Like he has a reason of why he's doing it. You don't get great performances like you do in The Social Network just because you do it once and then move on. That's not how you get great perform. Like even when you have great actors, it still won't be the same. Like there's a reason why Adam McKay and all these people like their writing is so good. Like they're be curious enough to ask the questions, I guess is my thing. And I know he's not gonna do that.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating because it's like it's not like you haven't been exposed to it, so it's just really weird. It's to me it's weird, but I understand that he doesn't want to. So that's his that's the answer to that. But you were talking about, his Netflix deal and stuff like that. And that kind of brings us to like the last segment, which is I think it was called Tyler Perry Built a Table. And it's about the capitalism of it all. The fact that is he a billionaire or am I
Yeah.
scared? Yeah, he is. He's a billionaire. He has this huge studio down in Atlanta. Um, he has so much access and tools and influence and like money to do so much more than he's actually doing. So it's actually frustrating because it's kind of like the way that you could really use all of this stuff that you have to like make great art to put back into the community, like get people. He did this contrast with like him and Issa Rae, where Issa like is putting all her people on. Like
Mhm.
he won't do that
Yeah.
because it's very much success for me, but not for thee. Like it's that is what it is.
Yeah.
And he talks about Du Bois and the Talented Tenth, like the illusion of black excellence, where it's like if you work really hard, you'll be able to, get to the. You won't even need to get a seat at a table. You can make your own table. But it's like, okay, cool. How has that worked out
So
for anyone
what do
else?
you do with that table? You know?
Are you inviting anyone to the table? Because if it's just you at the table, then it doesn't mean anything. That's the thing. It's like, and again, I was talking to my friends about this yesterday because we were talking about, I forgot what we were talking about. I think we were talking about the SAG Awards or something like that.
Mm,
But there was something so frustrating to me as I was like, after everything that happened at the BAFTAs, the fact that people weren't going to the Actors Awards or whatever, I was like, my friend was like, "Oh, are you gonna watch it?" I said, "Absolutely not. I'm done with these award shows. Like, I'll
yeah,
find out who won afterwards, but like, I'm not watching it because there is no protection for Black people at all. Like, there
yeah,
just isn't. Um, and I feel like watching people. I was on Instagram and I was watching like Beyonce take photos on her private jet, and like there was something more about that just felt so wrong. Like people are struggling out here. Like it's not a joke. Like the fact that our economy hasn't collapsed already is insane. I don't know, it's being held up by like a shoestring right now. Like this is like people are dying all over the world. Like you and your private jet just is not, it's not, you're not reading
the room, yeah,
the tone of like what is going on. And also you're not saying anything. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not, you have nothing to say. And so it's just, I'm in this place where I'm like, I don't care if you're black. Being a billionaire is not a good look. Like like making all this money and then like doing charity is not fixing systems. So thanks for donating your money, but it's also not like there's way more things that you can be doing. And that gap between the haves and the have-nots, like just because you have it, it's not protection for you either, but you're also like it's not helping the situation of like of people who are living in poverty, going to be poor for their whole lives because the 1% is just taking up all of the money. We
mm,
have all of these racial divisions. Like there's no coalescing around community. Like there's no people like there's not a lot of people because there are people who are doing it, but there are not a lot of people in those high places who are really like, let's bring people together. Like, let's actually build a table together and let everyone have a seat.
yeah,
And I feel like Tyler Perry is just is just an example of another one of these people who think that, well, I made it. So progress?
yeah,
No.
yeah. And that's I mean, you mentioned Issa Rae. Like, if you look at a lot of these black up and coming directors, Donald Glover, his people, like, he has his brother on his writing staff. He has multiple other black talents that he's worked with producing stuff. Issa Rae, her quadri of people. And there's a term in like football where they talk about a coaching tree, or in professional sports where if you could take one coach and see the roots and branches of, oh, this person on their coaching staff, they got this job with this sports team, and the branches from that one coach. You have the same thing with a lot of black Hollywood. For most black directors, uh it's odd. Like, you go from either Spike Lee or even Robert Townsend. Keenan Ivory Wayans started with Hollywood, well, not Hollywood Shuffle, yeah, Hollywood Shuffle with Robert Townsend. That from there, Keenan Ivory, gets Living Color. He gets I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. From there, the tree goes, okay, cool. My brothers get shows and stuff, and then the branches keep going and going. You look at Issa, her people. You go Spike. Okay, Spike's had this DP, this person working with them. These people have interned with him. You look at Tyler Perry's tree,
Yeah,
and there's it's nothing. You know,
exactly. And that's the true crime of all of this. Cause it's just like, yes, his work isn't good and he could be doing more and, all of that. But also, he's not even doing what I think a person in those spaces as a black individual should be doing, which is mentoring the next generation of people.
Yeah,
Like he's not doing that.
yeah,
So to me, that just no matter what anyone says about the fact that Taraji's getting paid well because she's working with him, like he pays her what she deserves, or that he always makes movies for black women, like none of that. To me, that doesn't have that's not holding any. It's not holding anything because it's like, well, what you're getting isn't quality
isn't good.
stuff.
Yeah,
And also, like, he's not even doing his job to me in terms of like mentoring the next generation of artists, which is like, wasn't that the whole point of building the studio? Like, wasn't that the whole ethos of like what you were trying to do
of
as,
building a table,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
and yeah, and the Taraji part of it all, I think, is also worse because understandably so, at the time Tyler was, in his groove with all his stuff, he was really the only director who could say, I have the clout and I'm own production stuff where I could hire black talent. Like you mentioned before, uh was oh my gosh, Idris Elba did a movie with him.
yeah,
Michael Eady's worked with him. Viola Davis has worked with him. Taraji's worked with him, and past that moment, most of them haven't worked with him at all.
right.
They've gone to other projects. The only person who tends to go back to him would be Taraji
It's
Henson,
Taraji. Yeah.
and I also think that's due to the fact that as a black actor, Hollywood doesn't look for you. And Taraji is like, oh, Tyler's a person who kept me making movies, kept my portfolio up. You know what? I will always help. I'll always go up to bat for Tyler, and that's a loyalty thing.
Mm.
Which I respect her for as well because it does show he's also giving a lot of black actors a space to perform and develop their skills so they can move on to other stuff. But there's also like, is the quality of work you know, up to stuff because and especially his habit of taking former models and turning them into actors, Lance Gross. I haven't seen Lance Gross in anything outside of Tyler Perry, you
Mm.
know. And
Mm.
I see like people like Keisha Knight Pulliam grew up watching on the Cosby Show and all that other stuff. She's constantly in those projects. Don't really see her in anything else. Like, is it at a certain point does working in Tyler Perry project help you? But then as a black actor, does also limit you as well because it does
Yeah.
get you paid and it does get you work. But then when it's time that you want to step beyond that, and the standard of writing and the standard of everything behind Tyler is not up to snuff, does that also limit your ability as a black actor to move beyond those spaces? And it looks like that tends to be the issue as well.
Yes. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So, and I feel bad for Taraji because I'm just like, to me, you could have been in the same rooms as Kerry Washington is, as Viola Davis is. Like I should think she did a movie with Brad Pitt a while ago, the Benjamin Button movie.
Yeah,
Like she was in these rooms, she was in these spaces. Like I
yeah,
feel like if more people just like gave her maybe like a second or third chance to really do something else, like she could have been that vein. To me, she's almost like a Regina Hall, where it's like she's been working for a long time and then she got one battle after another and it was like, oh, okay, so you have these auteur whatever directors who were like, let me actually reach in and get some of these actors because they're doing good work,
yeah,
and then you get that kind of exposure and hopefully continue to go in that way. But I just feel like there is this kind of double-edged thing where it's like you are being able to get paid well and have consistent work, but it's with Tyler Perry and the work that you're getting is, I mean, I don't know. People said they like Straw, so maybe he did something good there. I don't know. I didn't watch it, but I don't know. I feel like it is limiting.
yeah.
It's limiting because he doesn't have like vision to like really do more,
More.
even though he can. Even though and that's again the most frustrating thing about him is that like you have so many resources to do more and you're not.
Yeah.
Like, what? That's crazy. And
Like
that's so crazy to me.
the whole writer director blacklist thing where it's a basic competition where black writers submit scripts and then it gets pulled and might get out for a movie. That shouldn't exist with Tyler Perry. He's like, dang, this is a black writer, this script is amazing, I gotta do this movie. That concept should not be a thing where there's literal like submissions of black writers giving stuff to Hollywood, and then hoping or praying it gets optioned for a project. And then, 5 years down the road, we realize, oh, this was in a blacklist selection, 5 years ago, and it's one of the best films of the year. That shouldn't have to be a thing with Tyler Perry. He can go, oh, what's the script like? Oh, let's do this right away, kind of thing. And that doesn't happen.
Crazy. Got
Yeah.
multiple stages, got so much room to make stuff. It's totally frustrating.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is kind of giving, you know how like the rappers will make their own labels and then they'll get the other artists and then they won't.
Yeah.
And then the artists are just like no careers because it's like they don't care about that. So it is giving the same energy as that, which again, to me goes to the capitalism thing. It all kind of ties back to that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I he's still making movies. He will continue to make movies. He is still, even though there are like serious allegations against him, still getting invited to all of these like events and going on talk shows and stuff. Like, so I think everyone's just like, hey,
Yeah.
he's here.
Yeah.
So fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to support it, but if other people choose to, fine. That's their choice.
And this is all like in this concept we're mostly cover him as a creator. We're not going to cover the financial side, because that speaks for itself, and
Mm.
we're also not going to discuss the current pending assault cases that he has, because that's not for us to talk about. I mean, we should be able to, but we're going to talk about this on the creative side. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not going to break down those situations going on. I can only speak honestly on the creative side of my
Yeah,
issues
and
with him.
also like FD did a great
Yeah.
job breaking all that down. So you can actually watch his video. Like his video is like we're just talking about our thoughts about some of the highlights of what we want to talk about in
Yeah.
relation to film, but like he's broke everything down. It's so good. I would if you take anything from this video, go watch his video. Like it
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so exciting news. Last night was the Actors Awards, previously known as the SAG Awards. And this was like the one to watch because now it's like, okay, Oscar voting has opened. So people are like, what's going to win the Oscar? What's going to happen Oscar night? And Sinners pulled an upset because they won Best Ensemble. Um, and that was amazing. And Michael B. Jordan won Best Actor.
Yeah. The Roy
Who
won supporting role, got female actress for the role. They
didn't
got
Wumi
stunt
win?
ensemble. Yeah, Wumi won.
Yeah.
They've got stunt ensemble as well. Yeah.
They did so well last night. It was amazing. And these are actors who are voting for these things. And they are the same voting body who's going to be voting for these categories in the Oscars. Not all of
Hmm.
them, obviously, but like definitely for the acting award. So I am so excited. I thought that this race was like locked up between one battle after another and Timothy Chalamet. And I'm just glad that we're slowly moving away from that. Like I don't know if I'm not sure what's going to happen Oscar night.
Yeah.
But at least this gave me something to hold on to so I can care about what happens on Oscar night.
Look, I love the joy and adulation from Viola Davis as she read Michael B. Jordan's name, and we mentioned this before, and how some outlets are calling it a shocking upset over Timothy Chalamet, and we talked about this
And we
before.
did
And
talk about it.
our
We did.
initial Oscars view was, people are gonna cape for Timothy Chalamet's acting in this movie, and we both agreed it was not. It's not what you'd call acting. It's basically Timothy Chalamet being Timothy Chalamet to a degree, So, and people are shocked that Michael B. Jordan won because, based on marketing and everything going, and how he promoted himself and who he is to be the Chalamet was to consider the odds-on favorite to win this award almost every award show. The only person not mentioned in that conversation is Leo. But
Yeah,
so
and that's a little.
yeah,
The tea that I had before last night was that Leo might ended up taking his second Oscar just because usually how it works is whoever wins Best Director usually wins Best Picture, but you always have someone winning in the actor category for that film.
yeah,
So Oppenheimer, Kristen Nolan, Cillian Murphy,
yeah,
Everything Everywhere All at Once, those two guys, Michelle Yeoh, like you usually have those three things locked up.
yeah.
So in my head, I was like, well, if Paul Thomas Anderson's taking director, he's taking Best Picture, and
Yeah.
they're gonna need an actor somewhere in there, which means it wouldn't have been Timothy anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was just theorizing.
Yeah. But once again, this goes to the thing because remember not SAG awards anymore, the actor awards.
Mhm.
These are actors voting
Right.
for other actors.
Mhm.
So when it comes to these awards, when it's coming for ensemble cast, supporting actress, leading actress, leading actor, leading actress, I think because this is what they do for a living.
Yep.
They're gonna be objectively honest. Like, yes, that performance for this movie, wonderful. Whereas the Oscars is more so critics or industry people, and the Oscars still has this problem of a lot of their people are not watching these pictures most of the time. They're just going on word of mouth of what they've seen and what they heard. Yep. So at least with this award, I can say unequivocally, the Golden Globes and the SAG Awards are probably the only award shows I will probably still continue to watch to a degree, because it's merit based on the people who do what they do.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, that is it from us this week. We hope that you're all doing well and taking care of yourselves. Make sure to check out all of our social media, support us if you can, and we will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.
Au revoir.